Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everybody. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is on the ones and twos. So everybody, let's put our heads down. Let's pray to the hockey gods that they give Barzy, Varlamov, and the New York Islanders strength to take it on home.
Fam,
nothing. Well, obviously, we're just going to get into our first guest in a little bit, so we'll just spend some time going over a few things, do some unpacking. Johnny, I sent her information over to you, so you can send it to her. Awesome guest today, fam. We should have had her on a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Jaja will be joining us today. She's a Palestinian activist, but she's a Palestinian comedian. Hysterically, just awesome little bits she goes up and does when she does her thing, her shtick. So she'll be joining us to talk about everything Palestine, because I'm very interested to see like how a lot of people feel what's going on with Palestine now that the news has moved away. The mainstream media news has moved away.
Yep.
They supposedly have stopped the bombing, but they kept bombing. They have a new government, but it's the same as the old government in a way. So I'm just very interested to see what the new calls to action are, and Jennifer Jaja will bring us in for all that information. Ladies and gentlemen, we're waiting to see what's going on with the Rokfin. They're a little slippery today.
Yeah, we're not on there right now because
Yep.
it's just not working.
Trying to fix it, though. We're going to figure out what's what.
Trying to fix it so you guys... Yeah.
But share the YouTube link then, right?
Yeah, I did share the YouTube link. And I guess we can share the PayPal link too.
Yeah.
So I can do that.
Share all that right now. Let's go have fun with sharing that. Other stuff too. I want to say thank you to all our Patreons still there. Patreon hasn't taken us down. So if you guys that are sending us that love and help, we so appreciate it. I think we got some great footage on our last trips. Fiorella is going to do an update on Peru today and what's going down over there. I think it has to do with the OAS. It's funny how so many people cry about the OAN, the news channel. Oh my God, they're so awful. But the OAS just gets a free pass as they're going around doing all their shenanigans. So we're going to do an update on that today. We'll do a little quick update on Georgia. We're going to talk about McAfee. Everybody's talking about McAfee out there, ladies and gentlemen. So we did a little research last night. Went over a few things. Not a McAfee expert. Known him as the guy who had the antivirus. One of the most popular ones, but very intriguing stuff we found on him and stuff. We're going to put it out there today. I actually did a show, fam, not too long ago with our friends from Action for Assange, and John McAfee's running mate, Adam Kokesh, and I were the guest. So we were talking about all things freedom, libertarianism, voting, yada, yada, yada. It was a great show. I'm going to go back and hunt that up. We have a little clip from Adam Kokesh who went on RT the other day and kind of lost it. He's really hurt, upset.
Why?
Well, when we watch the clip, we'll see.
Okay.
It's a quick clip, but I don't want to take it away. It was fire. It was a short one, but and Adam is a real cool dude. Hopefully, I can get back to Adam. Maybe get him on the show. Adam versus the Man, I think his name is show is and stuff. He's done some collaborating work, I believe, with Burmis before too as well. And that's that. So what we'll do is we'll just acknowledge some couple people on YouTube real quick as we're sharing all this stuff. Hi, Jilly Love. Thank you so much for always watching the chat. Kristen Nye, Independent Left News, Roll Call Fam, ICU. You guys were awesome. If you want to go to the Rokfin and check out yesterday's episode of To Hell and Back, it was a really great episode.
It was.
We talked about the prison pipeline. It's so crazy, fam, because 74% of people who are held in prison or jails or lockup are not even convicted of a crime. 3 out of 4. Yet 80% of people have experiences with drugs when they go in. So, I mean, there's a lot of crazy thing. And also think about the fact, we talked a lot about, and Shanda's so great because she has so inside information about this stuff. Think about this. You're an opioid addicted, right? Addict. You're an opioid addict. You get arrested, you go to jail. So now you can get your stuff in jail, but you can't get a lot. You get a little bit of it, right? Just get enough to get by. And you're in jail for a couple weeks, you get enough to get by. Then you go out, you go back to your normal dosage, but your, what's that word? Your tolerance level has dropped tremendously. 15% of people who are going to get out of jail, opiate addicts, die because they go back to using their normal dosage that they were using before they went in, and boom, done. Dunsky. Terrible. Also, the ACLU has done some great things when it comes to that. ACLU, sometimes good, sometimes bad, has done some great things where they sued Massachusetts and Maine, I think, were the two states, to say, listen, these are people with disabilities. And they went after this Disability Act, saying that when they go into prison, you have to provide them some sort of care, some program. So we talked a lot about that, the MAT program and stuff. So, you have it's kind of crazy, the addiction world, fam, because you have opioid addictions, but they use methadone and Suboxone to clear these addictions. Like Mandy told the story, she got addicted to something else to kill another addiction. You know what I'm saying? So providing that kind of services in there and whatnot. And there's still talks about how do we get out of this, right? There's the whole Kratom community. Joe Biden's administration has been 10 times harder on stuff like Kratom than Donald Trump's administration. Donald Trump's administration didn't go after Kratom, so Kratom was allowed to be used. People like Shanda who talk about Kratom, we also have friends who use Kratom. They need it. They said it's very valuable for people who had opioid addictions.
What is Kratom?
Kratom's like the herbal remedy.
Oh, okay, got it.
Whatnot. Now, and there's been a lot of studies on it. Some people have been negative, some people positive, but a lot of people who are part of the Kratom community swear by it. Say it's what they need, you know what I'm saying? People who are addicted to opioids that take Kratom like it. Well, there's now about to be a federal attack on Kratom with the Joe Biden administration. It looks like they're going to go after it. Whereas if the Trump administration kind of was like, hands off, let's not touch this. Let's just let it be. And that is bad news for the Kratom community, because if you think about it, people who are using Kratom to counteract their opioid addiction, now they get that pulled away. What are they going to do? Are they going to go back to methadone? Are they going to go back to the other drugs that the big pharma makes big money off of? Because that's the thing. You can't make big money off Kratom. So henceforth, it's just like ivermectin. It's just like hydroxychloroquine. Shouldn't be saying those words. Sorry. But once again, it's all about the dollar bills. It's all about the money. They want you to tell you who your daddy is, what you're capable of using, and what not. So we did that show yesterday. It was pretty amazing. If you haven't checked it out, please go back and check it out. So
great. Guys, do we want to go over anything before your guest comes?
Well, the guest should be here any minute, so probably if there's anything briefly you want to go over, fam, maybe you should tell us about it or anything right now.
No, I really don't have anything that brief. I mean, if she's going to come on, like, right now.
Is she here, Johnny? Or let me go just text her real quick.
In the news. Yeah, we should do that.
Let me just ask her. Haven't gotten anything. To jenniferjajad@me.com. Sorry. My bad. Let me make sure I put it right. Hold on one second.
We're also going to cover what's happening with the trial right now. It's going on. I just heard Derek Chauvin's mother speak that her son has been misrepresented in the media. That's their whole take, that he's been misrepresented. There's a freaking video. Like, I don't know what to tell you. There's a freaking video of him. Everybody saw it. That's
That's the one.
Oh,
Let me see, make a big one one more time.
We'll be getting started shortly. Apologies. But yeah, like, there's a video and they're trying to make it like, the right, of course the right does their whole little thing with this. Like, it's the same thing. They bring up Ashley Babbitt, which they're right. Ashley Babbitt somebody should go to jail for what they did to her. 100%, right?
Yeah.
But like, they often just do it like, and that's why you shouldn't be a hypocrite. Why you should be against state police violence, no matter what. No matter what. If you're against it, it doesn't matter if you like the person or not. It really doesn't. So we'll see what happens. Experts are saying he's probably going to get 20 to 25 years. They wanted 30. The maximum he can get is 40. The defense is seeking probation only, which they're unlikely to get at this point. So everybody's just awaiting the trial right now. They just had George Floyd's daughter on as well. Yeah, there's a lot going on with that. So.
All right.
Okay, well, let's just do I guess in the news while we wait.
Should we just jump in the news?
Yeah.
All right, let's get on into the news. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining once again. All right, so in the news, fam, never forget J6. New footage has been released. Never forget J6. Here we go. No? They have lovely music going on. We can't play it, but you can see. This is J6.
That's the graduation music. I remember walking to that music, Johnny.
How stupid do you have to feel to say that this was meant somewhere along the lines of a September 11th event?
And over here we have a painting, and over to the right we have a sculpture of ex-president. Da 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 da. Oh look, okay, take a picture. I feel like they're at the Louvre. Like it's like they're at a museum over here. I mean, when like I say it all the time, we were surrounded by more cops and there were protesters like 2 days or a day before that.
Yeah.
And they had the zip ties ready to come after us. What the hell?
Yeah.
And these people like spent months now and they're still talking about it.
They're still trying to make policy from this situation.
Oh, they are making policy.
They are making policy. We know that. We saw the list of domestic terrorists and stuff. You know, I'm waiting for a guy to come by and go, get your churro here. Who wants a hot dog or something? Like, you know, it's just ridiculous at this point. I mean, how long do we have to go through this bullshit, ladies and gentlemen? You know, I was wrong. I was like, oh, my God, look at this situation. It's crazy up here. All these people from behind might come up. They never came up. They never did. I was like, okay, wow. They actually kind of stood their ground and was just like, a lot of the people we talked about, they were just kind of, what's going on?
Yeah.
What the hell is this? Like, we're not doing, like, you know.
Nazis, all of them.
It's, yeah. I mean, just so stupid at this point.
So stupid.
Now, there's been some little confusion what's going on in Georgia real quick. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Huh? Okay, we'll go this later. Our guest is with us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Excuse me. Coffee. She's awesome. She really is. She's a Palestinian activist. She's an hysterical comedian. Like, I was thinking about opening up with one of her lines, but I won't do that because I'll let you go see her show or watch her online. She's amazing, and I just can't wait to talk to her. Fam, I waited too long to reach out to Jennifer Jaja. How you doing, Jen?
Hi, how are you?
It's great to see you. I see you and I start laughing because I've seen your stand-up about 3 times, and man, I would say you're a powerhouse comedian. The way you command attention, the way you hit your lines, I mean, you're amazing. But the great thing about you is you're also an activist. You're a Palestinian activist. And I just want to ask you first, right off the jump, tell us about this website of yours and how you started it and what led you to start it. I mean, it's so great when you pull it up. There's resources. You can look at where there's an event. You can look for actions to do. It's very clear. There's documentary films. There's Undoing Zionism. There's even Shop Palestine. So tell us how and what led you to start this and why.
Oh, just a simple question.
Yeah. Well, give it to us.
Well, basically, thank you so much for the compliments about my stand-up. That's really awesome. And I hope to be doing shows soon, again, back out in the world. So we will be drumming up, audience for that to hear the Palestinian comedian talk shit about everything under the sun, especially Palestine and Israel. But I started this website, and honestly, it's just a Google site. It's an information hub. A friend of mine who's also Palestinian, who's lived in the West Bank, who also doesn't want to be out there publicly, and was like, you just talk about it. I don't, I'll help you build it. She and I came together and decided just to put up information on, it's not fancy. But it's compact and it's streamlined and it's information of what's happening, history of the conflict, very easy infographics for people, for Insta, people who have like 2 minutes and don't want to read an entire article or watch a 90-minute documentary. We've also got like 5-minute documentaries, and we're trying to really use this as an educational hub because we have so many friends who are like, I start having conversations about Palestine, and then I get stuck when I'm debating someone or when I'm trying to, talk further about the issues, or everything from that to people who are like, I really don't know anything. I need like the basic 101. So we started a Palestine 101 section, which is perfectly targeted to everybody who doesn't know what's going on there and needs like the basics. And, there's a lot of basic primer information there. But I think we started this because with the last, bombing of Gaza, the latest bombing of Gaza, the ongoing forever bombing of Gaza, and the occupation and what's happening, there's a groundswell of movement in Palestine on the ground, and for expats and people who are abroad like myself, who are just like, enough is enough. We cannot keep, protesting when Gaza gets bombed, protesting when something happens, and then go back to sleep for 2 years and then wake up again 2 years later. Like, people have been under occupation for 73 years. We are demanding our freedom. We are educating and bringing awareness to people to create allyships and relationships with other organizations and other movements, because it's time to free Palestine.
Yeah, so we were just gonna mention that too. Like, people have stopped talking about it in the amount that they were initially talking about it. It was wonderful seeing all the protests. We had thousands and thousands of people. One of the largest protests I've seen in LA here for Palestine. Also the coalition building with Black Lives Matter or with other groups. That was really great to see, anti-war voices. But then, of course, there was a ceasefire, and even after the ceasefire, 2 air attacks have occurred, right? And there's a slow genocide of Palestinians too. People are still being pushed out of their homes, and all of this is happening, but the mainstream media has stopped covering it, so the information doesn't get out there. How do we get people to continue paying attention to what's happening in Palestine besides, promoting the conversation? What should people be doing?
Well, I think that people need to. There's a certain level of fear talking about Palestine. It's been very strategically, a very strategic campaign to elicit fear in everyone who wants to speak out about and for Palestine. This has been going on for decades. This has been created by the Israeli PR Hasbara movement. There, all of the different PACs that they have that are like putting pressure on the government. There are things like blacklists that they put students, working professionals on, so that you are, when they Google you your job, your friends, your potential employers, your potential lovers, see this, this whole screed against you saying that you are an anti-Semite, that you're a terrorist, that all of these things. So it's been a very strategic campaign to instill fear in speaking up. And I think the power that we are seeing comes from more people speaking out, because the more people who say, you know what, I'm not going to let this fear put me in a corner, I'm not going to let this fear prevent me from speaking out. It empowers other people in your community, other people on your social media to go, oh, that person's not afraid to speak out. I do see injustice here. I am an activist, or I am involved in, movements. I will also add my voice to this. And I think the more it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. We're going to free Palestine. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen as more and more people understand what's happening and realize that what's happening is completely insane, immoral, unjust, genocidal, and that it doesn't align with their values. And then that next step is to speak out to your community, speak out to your friends, speak out to your family. Because the more that we create this movement on the ground, the more I think people realize that we can pressure, like apartheid South Africa. It's a momentum. It's a momentum that needs to happen. And it's in people who need to speak up individually in their small groups and their friend groups. Like, yeah. I'm like, if you want to do one thing for Palestine this week, talk to one friend and tell them what's happening.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because that language is important. I've been trying to use the word apartheid Israel. You know what I'm saying? Just use that because that's what's going on, because it did work for what, happened in South Africa. And, really, to tell you the truth, Jen, my whole thoughts today, before I get back to my questions, I don't want to detour a little bit. I was thinking, like, what would it be like? Because I'm from South Florida, right? I moved from New York to South Florida, and Boca Raton is where I'm from. And I got a lot of mentors that I grew up with that have a Zionist mentality, and even people I love to this day that are still, we're just not on the same page when it comes to Israel. How do you talk to people who might have this kind of Zionist approach when you're very, much a Palestinian activist without losing your cool? Because if I imagine anybody who can be able to talk to people and change their view, it'd be a person like yourself who's really cool and calm.
Oh, I'm not cool like that. I'm like, you have no idea. This is the thing. I'm only an activist because I'm Palestinian and I've been forced to be an activist. I feel like every Palestinian has to be an activist because we're literally fighting for our lives. We're fighting for the lives of our people. We are fighting for, right now, ceasefire. Right now in Silwan, in Sheikh Jarrah, in so many different parts of Palestine, there are settlers who are with the IDF, with the Israeli, forces, going into homes, stealing homes, attacking people coming out of their homes. It's like it's ongoing racial violence. And I think that's what, by conflating it and making it a religious issue or something else, that is the other thing I want people to really understand. This isn't a religious issue, and that is the most important thing to combat. Yeah. This is a human rights issue. This is a settler colonial issue. This is not a religious issue. This has nothing to do with being anti-Semitic. Has nothing to do with hating Jews. This has nothing to do with Jews versus Muslims, because there are Catholic Palestinians, there are Christian Palestinians, there are Palestinians of all religious persuasions. But I think I've learned over the years, I used to not fight, but I used to try to have a conversation with everybody and convince everybody. And I realized our resources are limited. Our mental health is limited. In order to keep this going on a long-term basis, we need to self-care, care for our community, and keep ourselves sane and healthy and able to move forward, to tell the truth, to act, to energize people, to activate, to do this. So I do not attempt to convince hardcore Zionists. If I feel that someone is so deeply entrenched in their values and has no interest in changing or even being open to learning, but they want to just debate endlessly, I give it up. And I say, well, you've got your opinion, I've got mine. I'm moving on to people who are on the fence, people who are something's not right and I don't understand, or I'm open-minded, or other allies who maybe don't know that much about the Palestine issue. I'm work on the people who you think are open and willing to be on your side and to be your ally and to have your back and for you to have their back. And the people who are just, I have a friend who's was in the IDF. He's an ex-IDF soldier. He's an older gentleman. He was he's now very pro-Palestine, and he's Israeli, obviously. And when he goes, he said he meets up with his former IDF friends, and he's like, you guys, this is apartheid. We have participated in this. You cannot not see it. And he gets into huge fights with them. And he's like, I'm never going to change their mind. I'm constantly, fighting with them. And I'm like, man, you have so many resources. Take it to the people who might want to know what you have. Don't waste your time. You want to plant your stuff in fertile ground, not on rocky soil. Yes. If you are a super hardcore pro-Zionist, God bless you. I'm moving on. You're not my people, and it's not going to happen for us.
And the Israeli government, right? They elected a new. They replaced Netanyahu. New boss name is the old boss, right? A lot of people on the left were like, "Yay, Netanyahu's been replaced," and we're like, "Wait a minute, this guy says death to all Arabs." I mean, not what's his name, Naftali Bennett.
Yes,
and it's really. Can you just give us your opinion on that? Because it's to me, it's just kind of like the United States replacing Biden Trump. It's it's the same. The same people behind are actually the ones pushing this imperialist genocidal type of death cult.
Well, he's more right wing than Netanyahu, which is actually insane if you think about that. Like somebody is who more, genocidal, racist, and right-wing than the person who just got pushed out. And it's this illusion that the problem is with the leadership and not with the state. That's what people need to understand. The problem isn't the leadership. There's not going to be, okay, well then we get the kumbaya Biden of Israel. What is that going to, it's the state, it's the system in place, it's the occupation, it's the apartheid regime. That is the problem, and that needs to be dismantled. It is not a democracy, it's a theocracy. So let's make it a democracy. Let's make it a democracy for everybody who thinks it's their homeland. One man, one vote, everybody's citizens. But Israel doesn't want to do that because they want to maintain demographic control over the land. They call Palestinians, first of all, they call us Arabs because they don't even want to, admit that there was a Palestine. They don't want to admit that we're Palestinians. And by lumping us into Arabs, they're like, well, go to other Arab countries then. They want to absolve their responsibility and guilt in all of this. And the system, we're freeing Palestine. We're not getting rid of the leadership. We are changing the state. We're changing the whole system. That is our goal.
Yeah. What is your assessment of the Palestinian government and specifically Hamas? Because you talked about there's Palestinian Christians, whatnot. I don't know if it's still the same, but I believe that Christians weren't allowed to participate in Hamas elections. Is that true, or is that kind of false? What's your assessment of them right now? What's going on?
I have to say I don't know that much about whether Christians were allowed to participate in that. I do know, I don't think that's the case, but I'm not sure. So don't quote me on that. But I do know that Hamas was created by Israel to undermine Arafat and to undermine the PFLP and the PLO and the Palestinian movements for freedom and for and self-determination. So Hamas was funded and created to divide and conquer, to create division within the Palestinian leadership and community and movements. Yeah. Number one. And there is a quick 6 or 8 minute video on our Palestine 101 that explains that. And it's really useful. So people go listen to that. It's super short and it's very to the point and it's very useful.
On the website?
On the website.
Cool,
yes.
Cool. We'll check it out.
And the other thing that Hamas was created and funded by Israel. Hamas started out not only being a military wing, but also doing humanitarian work on the ground, funding schools, building schools, providing mental health and educational resources for people. So people have a long history of allegiance with Hamas. Because they're like, Hamas built our schools. Hamas, gave when somebody was killed in an incursion. Hamas took care of the family, whatever. So there's that. Number one. Number two, Hamas is a boogeyman for Israel to constantly point fingers and not take any responsibility for their actions.
Same thing for the United States, by the way.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, for sure. I actually think Hamas would become really irrelevant if there was liberation. I think right now Hamas is a symbol to people, some Palestinians hate Hamas. Some Palestinians still support Hamas. Hamas is the governing power in Gaza. They were democratically elected, number one.
Yeah.
But I think Hamas stands for, we have some level of self-defense. We have some level to fight back. It's throwing a rock against an AK-47, but at least it's symbolically some level of protection, some level of resistance. And I do think that with a democratic state, Hamas would become irrelevant because there would be no need for that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Wow. I just get tired of hearing all the people. Everybody always bring up Hamas. Like they'll be like, even Congress members, right?
Yeah,
Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. They'll say yes, it's wrong. We need to stop. Blah blah blah. But we condemn the violence from Hamas. It's like, wait a minute, you're manufacturing consent still to say that this is some sort of equivalent situation here when there's obviously. It's not. And, you know,
And why are the Palestinians the only people in the world who don't have the right to resist, you know, in a military way, in a physical way? Why are we all supposed to be Gandhi? You know, I do not think that the outside world, first of all, no one would survive a day under occupation. I've lived under occupation for a year and a half. It's not fun. I came back with major PTSD, and I'm fortunate that I could leave. Many of my friends are, you know, still there, cannot leave, are not allowed to leave, are not allowed to even cross to the next town, are constantly fearing for their lives, for their livelihoods, for their families. So why are we not allowed to resist in the way that we as a people have chosen to resist? That I am, you know, I'm not pro-Hamas, I'm not anti-Hamas, if that's how people choose to resist, who am I? I'm not living that life.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important that you brought up, too, as well, that Israel funded and started Hamas. Ron Paul said this on the floor of Congress, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, as a way of weaponizing, you know, the people of Palestinians against each other, when you had the PLO and Yasser Arafat, which was a secular government, you know, a socialist style government, and they didn't want that. So I keep thinking about that too as well. But I also want to comment on something you said before, because I think it's important. We talked about the new government being more right, but technically when it comes to Israel's social issues, they're more left. They're kind of like Sharon, Perez, Labor Party. And my point is to always point out whether they be right or left when it comes to the social issues. They're still imperialist. They're still, you know what I'm saying, they're going to still occupy Palestine. And I think that's important for people to realize that it doesn't make a difference, because whatever government gets there for Israel is going to be the same way and act the same way towards Palestine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I just wanted to make that point, by the way. So.
Well, do you think Israel has the right to exist? Because this is a question that many people, you know, not everybody agrees on this.
Yeah.
Is that because, you know, you go back to history and you can point out Palestinians were there first, as you know, Israel wasn't a state. It's been memed. It's been explained ad nauseum as to what happened, right? And how that state was created. Palestinians had no say whatsoever. It was like somebody coming in and telling you to leave and saying they promised your apartment to somebody else, basically, like in a very simple
massacres were committed.
Massacres, massive massacres, and still to this day, this is all happening. So, does Israel have the right to exist?
As the state it is now, no, I do not believe so. As a one democratic homeland for all people who see it as their homeland, yes. As a true democracy, yes. As an occupying, colonizing entity, no.
So what's the solution then? One state, two state? I'm talking about modern times.
One state. Two states is totally untenable. The West Bank is a pockmark. There is no territorial contiguity. There is no water access. There's no land access. There's no air access. How would it possibly be two states? And how would they defend each other against each other? It makes no sense. All of it is historic Palestine. Palestinians don't want a two-state solution. Far and wide, we do not. We want to return to all of historic Palestine. We want to live in all of historic Palestine. We are open to Jews and Israelis living in all of historic Palestine as our neighbors, as our equal democratic, you know, citizens under a government that is decided by all citizens. But I think that it doesn't really make any, I mean, how would Gaza and the West Bank even be? Would there be a huge superhighway over Israel? I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, would we have tunnels and we'd have to go underground? Like, what?
Yeah, that's what Trump proposed, tunnels.
And all the water, all the water on aquifers are in the West Bank, which is why they're building constant settlements in the West Bank to usurp all of that, all of those resources in the event that which they don't even think there's going to be two states. They know there's never going to be two states. They just want it all to be Israel, and they want us all to leave.
Right. Yeah. The two-state solution is basically Israel taking over. That's what it is.
It's dead. It's not realistic. Nobody wants it, and it skirts the issue. Where are Palestinian refugees who've lost are they going to get financially compensated? Are they but they have to only live in this part of the country because that's now one of the two states, and they can't do all of the Palestinian citizens of Israel have to go to the other. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
One state is really just. One state is what everyone, sees as a future viability for peace for everyone.
Yeah. You have any other questions? Well, Jennifer, that's all we got for you today. Unless Johnny, you got a question? Well, I have one last question, because I know everybody says we have to participate in BDS as a way of vocalizing our movement. But in LA, what's a good Palestinian restaurant to go to, and what's a good item to order off there? I got to bring it back to food. You know me, I'm a food guy. But where's a good Palestinian restaurant we can hit up, and what's a great item to order off that menu? I know if you guys
don't know any good Palestinian restaurants in LA.
What?
All the Palestinian restaurants or food I know is in Orange County. And what's interesting is that because there is a big Palestinian community there.
There is? I didn't know that.
Like near Anaheim. But it's also interesting that most of the Middle Eastern restaurants in LA call themselves like Lebanese or Jordanian, because they also don't want to call themselves Palestinian because they feel like they're going to get flack.
Yeah, that's true.
So let me think about this. I'll put it on my Twitter. I'll tweet at you about it if I think of one.
Yeah, I think it was the Fig Tree, which is in the Valley, which is one of the places I went to, and they're Lebanese, but they have a lot of Palestinian culture and food on their menu. I believe that's what they told me.
The food overlaps a lot.
Yeah,
we went to a really good one in Baltimore.
Oh man,
it was delicious. The food was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Israelis even want to steal our food. They keep rebranding it as Israeli. And I'm like, hummus, falafel, tabbouleh, all of this. None of this is Israeli. That's Palestinian food.
Or you got the other way around. Also in the Valley, the Pita Kitchen, they claim to be like Israeli food, but they're really Palestinians keeping quiet.
No, stop.
I was a long time ago, because I remember my friend was talking to the owner, and I'm like, you have all these Israeli flags. He's like, we're Palestinian, but we're cool. They were making money hand over fist, and they were like, it's all right. You know what I'm saying? I was like, wow. But great stuff. So if
that tells you anything about being Palestinian in America.
Yeah. Well, me and Johnny, we have boycotted Sabra. Hummus? Ugh. No, we don't eat that shit no more. We're saying no more. We make our own hummus now here in the house, so it's great.
Is it good? I gotta taste it, man.
Listen, I might be Italian, but I can cook. When me and Johnny made it, it was delicious.
You gotta send her
easy.
some hummus.
Well, you know what? Me some. Now that this is coming, this whole shenanigans is coming, I'm hoping to see you in a comedy club back on stage, because like I said, I really am saying this honestly. I'm not kissing your ass here. I think you're an amazing, amazing comedian. And it was so awesome that your best friend's husband and I used to play cards together, me and Zach Attack.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's funny.
That's right. My boy. So
I forgot about that.
We have connections. So thank you so much. Let everybody know where they can find you, where maybe you're coming to get back on stage. If not, you're going to do comedy online. Let us know, and what we can do to further this Palestinian movement.
BDS. I forgot to talk about BDS, and you did just bring this up at the end. So that's a really important component to what we can do. Besides talking to your friends, neighbors, and family, look at the BDS site. There are really small action items you can do, like economically, not shop at certain places that support, settlement activity or the IDF. So there's a lot of, you can sign petitions. We have action items, which I need to update today. So thank you for reminding me. I'm going to update the action items. for people to do, which are really small, like sign one petition, call one congressperson, don't buy Sabra Hummus, these kinds of things.
Yes.
So that's what you can do to help us. Number 2, find me on Twitter or Instagram at JenJaje, which I'm sure you'll put a little infographic because
We already got it up.
Yeah, you got it up. So go there. There's a link to my site on my Twitter and on my Instagram. So that'll take you to the site that we're talking about with all the Palestinian resources. And yeah, hopefully we can get out in the world and keep shaking it up.
Anything
thank you guys
coming
for
up
having me.
comedy-wise, by the way?
Not yet. Things are slow, but hopefully we'll be. I'm hoping to tour later this year. Let's fingers crossed that this becomes a possibility and we don't go back to lockdown.
Yay.
Where could they find your comedy online, just so people can go see how hysterically funny you are?
I don't have a lot of links online. I do have a few like old clips up on YouTube if you just look up my name.
Okay.
But yeah, I've got like a lot of comedians, we don't put, because we are constantly rewriting and performing kind of the same material until we get a comedy special. It's like we don't put all of our material up.
Well, thank you so much for joining the show. You are awesome. I wore my nice shirt for you today because
nice.
I wanted to be on point for Jennifer Jaja. You're amazing.
I feel underdressed now.
You're great. Thank
You're
you
amazing.
for coming on. We appreciate it.
All right, bye guys. Thank you for having me.
Bye, JJ. Jennifer Jaja, ladies and gentlemen. We waited to, I'm such a schmuck. Why didn't I have her on months ago, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. She's amazing. Not only is she a great comedian, but great activist.
Yeah. No, it's I love to hear from Palestinian people. I'd rather hear from Palestinian people than from anybody else on this issue in particular.
Yeah.
Guys, we are on Rokfin now, right?
Yeah.
We're finally on Rokfin, so go share the link, and because I haven't had time to share it, and yeah. So,
by the way, she lived in occupation Palestine for
isn't that crazy?
I mean, come on, for almost 2 years, a year and a half. She was very fortunate to get over here.
Most people can't.
And they can't.
Yeah.
So there's only 16 people watching on Rokfin right now, so we need to get that number up.
I'm going to share that link.
So Cultist Demon, thank you so much. I appreciate all your efforts. Y'all have my support, but I hope y'all move out of this anarchist, anti-authoritarian phase soon. I really wish we would too as well, because it's really kind of disgusting what they're doing right now.
No, he's saying he wants us to move out of this anarchist, anti-authoritarian phase that we're being too anti-authoritarian.
Oh, sorry. I missed the whole thing.
I got you, cultists. And no,
See,
because I stand
get me.
I stand against authoritarianism, period. I don't support authoritarianism. I don't believe real communism as it was intended requires authoritarianism, and that's because that in itself is what pushes people away from communism. It's that authoritarianism is what people fear. I know, because I have dealt with it my whole fucking life, people being afraid of that, right? And so for me to be anti-authoritarian is anti-imperialism, because I'm not going to go tell somebody how to run their shit. I believe in community and mutual aid and helping each other out. I don't believe in telling somebody that if they don't believe 100% with me that they should go to the gulags, because that's like that will inevitably swing the pendulum back into full-on fascism. And you can have authoritarianism on the left and you can have authoritarianism on the right, and that's what we have to really be honest about. That's where I differ with a lot of you guys on the whole communist ideology. Like, I do not support authoritarianism. I think it's a scary thing, and I think some of in the past some countries have needed it because of the West. And so some of the things they have done have been in response to that. But I also don't think that that's the ultimate goal here. The ultimate goal isn't to establish a complete dictatorial rule where everybody thinks the same, everybody is the same. It's equity. It's equity. It's having the same opportunities to do what you wish, rather than ensuring everything is the same. No. There's that whole bit of I think we should all accept who we are as a people, and I just don't. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is that the left right now is littered with authoritarianism when it comes to our United States left, our elected officials who are considered the left, who really aren't left. You know what I'm saying? They're not left economically. They might like to act like they're left socially, but it's mostly virtue signaling. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to fight for people who are really in desperate need, the most vulnerable. They're not going to do it. They're just going to throw shit out there, act like they're on your side, and turn around and screw you economically and starve you out of your house while Big Brother comes and makes all your decisions. By the way, Vosh for Vendetta said, no pasta, Hamas doesn't run Christian candidates in Palestine elections. And they still beat Fatah, which just can tell you about how desperate the people are right there to just have some form of, leadership of people sticking up for them despite what's going on. And like, Jennifer Jaja said, Hamas was elected. They are the elected people. And I love these new kind of ways they can put, look at this, on Rokfin, ladies and gentlemen, you got Cultist Demon and Vosh for Vendetta. They got awesome little symbols. Cultist Demon's little icon is kind of spinning, fam, right now in the chat. There's 32 people watching on Rokfin. We appreciate that. There was some issues getting on earlier, but we are here. There are 180 people watching on YouTube. Guys, like, share, subscribe, hit the thumbs up.
Yeah,
we have
we're
2
obviously
trolls.
being suppressed.
Big time. But I mean, you guys have done an amazing job coming over to the Rokfin platform where we aren't suppressed, and that is important. So if you made the change and you made the move over there, I appreciate that. We appreciate that.
Yep.
We love you. We see you, and we are thankful for that you're doing that. So let's get going, rolling, fam, on the folder. Let's go in the McAfee then?
Yep.
You want to do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Who is John McAfee? Guys, there's been a lot of stuff going on in John McAfee. People have been kind of studying up on who he was, what he was. He was a very interesting character.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's watch what Johnny's got first. This tells a little bit about who John McAfee is. Okay.
I'm John McAfee. I'm the guy that was accused of murdering police, ran into Guatemala. The FBI is going to be looking for me if you don't call him, sir.
The FBI?
When John came up with antiviral software, 90% of the people weren't even aware of viruses.
By 1993, McAfee controlled 67% of the desktop antivirus market.
When he first came into the country, he was very friendly.
He donated a considerable amount of equipment to police.
If you're giving donations to the police, are there some motives behind that?
He was getting paranoid. I started seeing more and more security people.
He had guys with criminal records, give them gun.
I think he really wanted to create a cult or a mystique like Colonel Kurtz. And here he is in the heart of darkness.
How many girlfriends did he have?
At least 5 or 6 girls.
I do have teenage girlfriends, and many at a time.
He would talk about his hitmen, how he could have people hurt or killed. And he brought me 2 pills and a glass of orange juice. And I woke up dizzy, and he was standing over me naked. He went from 0 to crazy in like 2 seconds.
David broke into John's home and stole stuff.
So John asked me if I could bring 3 guys up here, slap him up, teach him a little respect.
Before torture, take knife, cut him up, stairs at him in the mouth and the face.
And then he died.
John's dogs ran on the beach, and they were really ferocious. Greg Fall had it with those dogs and said, I'm going to poison those dogs. Mr. Fall was found dead. He had been executed.
I still can't believe it.
John calls me and says, I need you to get me out of the country alive. We just put him on a boat and dump him in land in Guatemala.
I've been running through jungles and rivers and oceans.
Now he's back in the United States. It was as if it hadn't happened. He goes from running away from something to now running for President of the United States.
I don't see how he can lose. I'm serious.
He had apparently gotten away with possible murder and rape, all seemingly without consequence.
He's legitimized himself again.
And I see him regaining that reputation.
Please turn your cameras off.
And he's dangerous.
Gringo,
wow.
The Dangerous Life. Well, I thought it was important to show that because there's a lot of speculation out there. He maintained his innocence on the murder. Mm-hmm. He maintained his innocence on the rape. But that was out there, and there's a lot of people who said, well, who? It seems like, John was definitely responsible for the death of that man with his dogs. If it wasn't him, it was his staff, his pirates of sorts, you know what I'm saying, that he armed to the T. And, he escaped that right now, then came back to the States, and then it went back on to the whole, okay, he's now enemy of the state. He's running as a libertarian candidate. I mean, there's a lot of footage of John McAfee in all these, cryptocurrency situations, so these little, what do you call these little events, Johnny, festivals. And when he talks about it, he talks about how, the monetary system could be changed. He was like the first Elon Musk-ish guy when it came to crypto. He put something out there, and that would sway the market up or down. And John McAfee was that guy. I do have a clip right here of his last voice message because it tells a different story than the trailer we just saw. Now, the trailer we did just see, though, Showtime, Daily Beast.
Right.
We know who these people are.
Right.
So we have to also realize what kind of message they're trying to put out there, what the government wants this guy to be portrayed as. You know what I'm saying? As evil, as a demon. If he did have a lot of information, which he claims to have, and we will show you some of the stuff, he could be public enemy number one. So
also, it's just worth pointing out that there were a lot of the same portrayals of Julian Assange. Now, Julian Assange is a journalist. Obviously, he's a little bit different, but at the same time, he was accused of rape. He was accused of so many things, smeared. It's still to this day, people believe those things, even though the cases were thrown out. I'm not saying, that it did or didn't happen with McAfee. I'm just saying the way things are framed by those in power is always suspect, especially when it comes to people who have information or whistleblowers. And we'll see in later on, and we'll talk to Steve too once he gets into town as well, because Steve did have the opportunity to interview him last year.
We'll play the little clip I put up too as well. And we also have somebody else that we can possibly have on that was actually, and we'll get to that soon when we get to that. Let's listen to his last voicemail. According to online reports, once again, this is supposedly John McAfee's last voice message.
People have suggested that it's not really me tweeting on my Twitter account since I'm in prison. Most of you know my voice. For those that do not, my humor, which is obscure, certainly must shine through. In any case, it is actually me. But now the more important things. I love you all, and I miss being able to share videos and photos with you. It is impossible for America to extradite me. I do believe this. The documentation they have, quote, discovered about me, they simply pulls out of their ass. And the Spanish people and Spanish courts are not stupid. So do not worry. I may even get out on bail in a week or two. And if not, I will eventually be freed here. I do miss you all and wish that I could share fully with you. I love you. Keep up the fight against the madness and cancer that's been invading America. Goodbye, my friends.
He always spoke out against the system that we have here in America. He claimed to have a lot of dirt on a lot of officials. And he also claimed that it was the United States government that set him up with the whole police thing. Like they went on, they framed him for this crime. They destroyed a bunch of his property and all this other stuff. So he always claims that he was set up when it comes to that situation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's like, well, I mean, at this point, whose word do you take? The United States government? Look what they're doing, or his? I mean, it sounds outlandish to people, right? When somebody's framed this way and portrayed this way in the media, and then they say, no, that I was framed and the government did this. It sounds crazy. Yeah. But trust me, in this past year, anything is possible. After what I've seen and the encroaching fascism that's coming into this country, I firmly believe that people are being targeted, and that people who speak out against the government are being particularly targeted, and we're seeing it now in incoming legislation. So
if you think about McAfee, where he comes from, created the antivirus, all this situation, This is the interview. We watched the whole interview last night, me and Johnny, but we took a clip. Zach Voorhees, who's been on the show before, he was the whistleblower at Google. He put this up. But this is something right here that's very interesting, which, once again, McAfee has said some stuff before that he has information, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, a lot of people are questioning, is he full of shit? Is he for real? But this particular interview right here, this is a quick minute and a half clip of some of the stuff he said that was really like, kind of shined a light on the information he could potentially have. Take a look.
When I went on the run in Belize, I had friends in the U.S. Embassy in Belize. I knew what was coming down. I'm not stupid. I had arranged with the head of security. I was going to come in. He said, sir, we have it from the highest authority. We are not to allow you entry into the U.S. Embassy. Understand me. Who was the highest authority of the State Department? Hillary Clinton. I'm an American citizen with a American passport. I'm sorry. I'm not wanted in America. I've got no crimes in America. Is it not a reason to say, I don't think I'm going to vote for you?
And yet you're here now.
For a month and a half, I was on the run. The reason that the government wanted to collect me was that after they had raided my property in 2012 in the jungle, shot my dog, abused me, destroyed $500,000 worth of my property over a bogus charge, I was pissed off. And so I donated to many secretaries within the government laptop computers, really nice ones, that were preloaded with viral spyware. Within a week, the entire government computer system was under my control. I was watching, monitoring, listening. I was looking for information that they had set me up for that raid. I didn't find that. I did find out that the Minister of National Defense was the largest drug trafficker in all of Central America. And the Minister of Immigration, the largest human trafficker.
We don't want to get killed by them either, so we're probably not going to.
That's fine. That's fine.
I mean, it was supposed to be like a funny interview of sorts, but fam, that stuff that he was saying, and he was talking about, like, you know, he was going to oust a couple CIA people, a couple Bahamian officials that were part of the whole human trafficking situation. So, I mean, it's just like, you know, he does have the capability.
Yeah, that's the thing. He does.
You know,
he does have the knowledge to be able to do that. It's not like just some guy that's saying, "Oh, he did. He freaking McAfee for years." That's been on your computer.
Exactly.
McAfee, Like, it's just like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah. And if you think what McAfee does, it finds the viruses and stuff. So knowing how to find a virus, you better believe you'll be able to plant one. And that is the question, right? We'll get a little bit more into the whole, well, what's going on, because there was talks that McAfee had said that he's going to leave a dead man switch. And then once he dies, he's going to leave information out there and trails to that information. But I want to point out Adam Kokesh, because Adam Kokesh was his running mate in 2020. I just did a show recently. I did Action for Assange with Misty and Andrew, and it was me and Adam who were the guest. And it was a great show, a fun show. I thought the guy was awesome. Adam Kokesh was on RT the other day. Here's a little clip. He lost it a little bit, but we got to show it because he's even talking about the death of what's going on when it comes to John McAfee.
Okay, well, we're joined now by Adam Kokesh, who was a US presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party at the last election, where John McAfee was his running mate. And you're very welcome. Thanks for your time tonight, Adam. Thanks for coming on. Just tell us, from your own perspective, how will you remember John McAfee? Because he was a very colourful character.
Well, first, thank you very much for this opportunity. And I want to take the chance first to say, I will never commit suicide in government custody. Unfortunately, saying that was not sufficient protection for our friend John, but to any FBI agents who are watching or listening to this right now, let me say I have information that is critical to you preventing a crime from happening. I want to talk to you. I want my file. I want John McAfee's file. And I want a fucking whistleblower. It's time for this crap to end. Enough killing activists. John McAfee was not killed.
Adam, if I could just ask you, I understand you feel very strongly here, but if you could just mind your language for all our viewers at home too. But let's just come on to the conspiracies that are surrounding this case too.
I appreciate your standard of decorum and respect for the fact that a friend of mine was just murdered by government in custody, and this is something that a risk that I have faced, that many activists ongoing continue to face, as you yourself mentioned, that Julian Assange and many other high-profile whistleblowers face, as Aaron Swartz faced, as so many others. How many people have to commit suicide with 2 gunshot wounds to the back of their head before people wake up? This is insane. This is ridiculous. And yeah, John McAfee, you want me to answer? I'm going to remember him as the guy who got arrested for smoking a joint, went right back, smoked another joint, and went back and kept doing it until he didn't get arrested, because he was the guy. People respect me for political activism, for civil disobedience, for, I walk up to the line and I step over the line and I go, oh my gosh, did you get that on camera? John McAfee, there was no line. You try to point it out to him in the first place, he'd say, you're full of crap. That's just more government nonsense. And he was a free spirit. He was one of a kind. And, maybe just, too powerful. Too much of a threat to the system for them to let him live.
Adam, look, good to get your thoughts tonight. We appreciate your time and coming on and speaking to us so early after this news.
Adam Kokesh, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna reach out to him so we can get him on the show too
as
well. I had an amazing show with him because he was like, he was listening to me talk about elections, and it was like, wow, and he was like, he gave his perspective about like elections. He goes, I think we're above and beyond elections right now at this point.
Yeah.
When it comes to the imperialist state of America, it's like, forget about that stuff. We really need to take matters into our own hands. And you heard what he said about Assange right now. Snowden just said that, says after McAfee's death by suicide, that Assange could be next, you know what I'm saying? And, in the Steve interview, when Steve Slow Newsday did the interview, he did talk about Assange too as well. He said if Assange wasn't as high profile as Assange was, he'd be dead by now. He'd be gone.
Yeah.
The fact is that he's too much lights and too much eyes on Assange right now that they're trying to use the law to torture him and make sure. But there's also entities that said they wanted to make sure that John McAfee died in prison are the same kind of mentalities. They want to make sure that Julian Assange dies in prison. Slow torture, die in prison. So
it's just wow. I mean, there's just too many coincidences here, right? Too many people have died. We've found out, right, that the FBI and the CIA were responsible for the death of pretty much every Black Panther activist or civil rights activist from back in the day. Then you have the Kennedys, Robert and John, and then you find out years later that these things that were considered conspiratorial at the time were actually true, that the government did have a heavy hand, if not in the entire hand, in their deaths. And that is no longer arguable. So are we going to wait till somebody else to start investigating? People think like this is all like still that this is conspiratorial, but it really isn't. I mean, at the very least, it mitigates some sort of investigation, some sort of questioning, especially with what's happening with Julian Assange and the United States seeking international jurisdiction of the entire press, and simultaneously as they're just taking away our freedoms as Americans when it comes to free speech, when it comes to your freedom of press, when it comes to freedom of protest. So there's too much going on that's correlated. And of course, a technocratic panopticon that's happening within the privatization of our resources. So I really think that the people have wised up, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, too, a lot of people will kind of do what they did with Julian when people accused Julian of being a rapist. The same thing that we saw that first video that we got out there, because I thought it was only fair that we showed that side about what potentially could have, what he could be guilty of, you know what I'm saying? And once they see that, they immediately, oh, no, this guy's a scumbag. I don't care what he has to say.
Right, exactly.
They put it away. But you got to understand the intricacies of how, against the machine John McAfee was. He was one of those first pioneers when it came to blockchain, when it came to Bitcoin. And here's an interview I found about 4 years ago of him on RT and just him explaining. And it was so many crypto, events that he went to or, conventions where he talked about, well, the government can't do this. The government's not going to be able to do this. This is a mathematical solution. You know what I'm saying? It's owned by everybody. It's owned by the people. So not only was he that true libertarian about freedoms, whatnot, he also pushed about a monetary system within the blockchain against the United States government. I just want to play this really quick clip right over here. It's less than 2 minutes of John talking about blockchain and Bitcoin on RT several years ago.
Well, someone who disagrees with you on the term of bubble when it comes to Bitcoin is Mark Cuban. Back in June, he tweeted, "I think it's a bubble. I just don't know when or how much it corrects." When everyone is bragging about how easy they're making money, that equals a bubble. Now, when he tweeted that, Bitcoin dipped in price. So how can one person's random Twitter thread have that effect on the price? And what does it say about Bitcoin's stability?
Well, it says nothing about Bitcoin stability. After it dropped $500, it's now at 44. So these temporary fluctuations are meaningless, created by speculators, people who do not understand the fundamental technology of the blockchain. Those who do know that in the long term, these fluctuations will make no difference. The more people who use Bitcoin, the more valuable it will become. This is the only metric we can use.
Now, Bitcoin and blockchain go hand in hand, but blockchain's ability to track financial transactions in a way that is incorruptible, it gives it infinite amount of uses outside of the original purpose of using it for Bitcoin. Do you see blockchains overtaking certain aspects of the financial system as we know it now?
It will take over all aspects. People think that Bitcoin or the blockchain is owned by someone, by a company or by a consortium. No, this is strictly a mathematical formula that nobody owns, that we are all participating in. And we use the blockchain for everything from fixing supply chain problems in corporations to verifying the authenticity of the sender and receiver in a financial transaction. It is the most powerful technology that the world has seen, I believe, since the invention of agriculture.
Now, John, we've showed our viewers Bitcoin's rise just in...
Wow.
Could be used in elections,
I
fam.
know. I was just gonna say, the
Well,
authenticity of elections.
It's serious. Yes.
100%.
I mean, a lot of people still concentrate on going to hand counting, getting rid of the computers
I think you
altogether.
should still have hand counting as a backup.
In addition, right?
In addition
Yes.
to, but blockchain would be the
And an
only
open
way I
source
would
system?
think. Right. Yeah. But it would be like the only way I would say technology might be okay with that, because that's the only way I see it, right? Like it's 100%.
So the reason why I played that video before we get into this right now, because I can't get too deeply into this because I don't know a lot about the mumbo jumbo when I see a lot of stuff. But this is a thread that's been getting a lot of popularity. He started a coin.
Right.
Was it called Epstein, Johnny? Epstein didn't kill himself, and whacked was the... I don't know how it's framed, but he put it on his arm. And that was when he was talking about, like, I'm not going to hang myself. And we're going to show this thread over here, too, as well, because the thought process is that he would release the dead man switch on the Ethereum network. Okay, that's where his coin was all from. Now, he said he had 31 terabytes of information. Now, this is it right here. Getting subtle messages from U.S. officials saying, in effect, we're coming for you, McAfee. We're going to kill yourself. I got a tattoo today just in case. If I suicide myself, I didn't. I was whacked. Check my right arm. And that was the coin. Whacked. Available on McAfee FedEx or McAfedex.com. You can't even go to that website anymore. It brings you to somewhere else. You can't, whatnot. But in this Twitter thread, it says, Etherscan wallet named Epstein with the tracker ID whack wakes up after being asleep. Starts sending unknown addresses. McAfee may not be bluffing about the dead man switch. And it has all these things over here. It has the wallet. And once again, I'm content here. I have friends. The food is good. This is that next picture. Know that I didn't hang myself, a la Epstein. It will be no fault of mine. Yes. And that, once again, we just read the other tweet with the whacked on it. But here's something, and some people are saying this came from 4chan. Okay. Holy shit, the code in the Q picture. And if you didn't know this, now his Instagram's been shut down, but when he died, or it was announced he was dead, a big Q came up on his Instagram. Okay, but here, this is going to say what's going on. Holy shit, the code in the Q picture was actually a hexadecimal representation of a private key for an Ethereum wallet. The wallet is empty and has no transaction history on mainnet. But if you look at Ropsten testnet, there's a test development of whacked contract prior to it being launched on the mainnet. What did I say?
Deployment,
sorry. There was also a new test contract launched 6 days ago from the same address, but the code is not published to scour mainnet to find a similar contract. WTF is going on here? I'm pretty good with Ethereum, so do some Solidity programming. but might need some assembly ninjas to help reverse engineer this contract code to see what the fuck it is. How the F is he deploying contracts and posting on social media with hidden keys to wallets, creating contracts from jail or dead? This shit had my heart rate through the roof. I need a fucking Xanax. John, do you want to give him the perspective to that?
Yeah, no. So I saw in another thread that the Q picture where they got that representation, the hexadecimal thing, is metadata, but it's not anything.
Yeah.
That stuff. The metadata is different for each picture. Like Instagram puts its own metadata. So someone put it in Photoshop. You can put a picture and you can change the metadata to a picture or something like that.
Yeah.
When you take a picture, it has like specific metadata about like when it was taken and stuff like that. Or you can make comments on the picture that comes with the picture. But yeah, apparently that was debunked. But the only thing that is weird is that the Q definitely showed up on his Instagram account after he was announced dead.
Yeah.
And this shit definitely started happening too. This Ethereum whack thing, which was his, because his was an ERC20 token, which is the same thing that a Ray token is. It's a whacked token. So, and that just, I don't know, that started being used all of a sudden. So, that's good. And the what else is true is all these messages that he sent out. This was while he was in jail. He says, "I will not hang myself a la Epstein." And then he said, "I'm getting some messages." So that's why he got that tattoo. So that's interesting, you know. So there's something suspicious there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
What about the last part of that, Johnny? Is it worth, if you go down where you were streaming the video with the girl trying to show the connections financially? I watched that several times trying to right there. I watched that several times trying to keep track of that, kind of looking into it.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
Guys, go if you want to go look at that thread yourself, please do so. A lot of interesting stuff. It's got a lot of play. It's got like 22,000 likes almost. So a lot of people were looking at it. When I talked to Jason Burmis about it yesterday, he was like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen a dead man switch really work.
Yep.
This is kind of confusing in some ways. It could be hit or miss. You know, they don't know. But there are talks that he was leaving a dead man switch of sorts, that he had all this information on a lot of the way the government merged with big tech. You know what I'm saying? Because that was his field. So it's interesting, something to look at.
The realities, the facts are he put out those tweets, and then the coin thing. Those are the facts, and the Q thing. That has nothing to do.
And the fact that his Instagram got taken down
right away.
Yes.
Got taken down. So.
Which they really shouldn't be able to do. I mean, his wife was running it. He was getting messages to his wife to tweet and stuff. So a lot of people say she could have just put the Q up over there, but I think she's doing what she was told to do. And there might be a master plan. Who knows? We don't know. John McAfee, a lot of people say he's not even dead, because there's on this thread, they said that there was a military plane that went from Spain to the United States. So once again, it's the a la Epstein. They're still holding him. You know, what's going on? Who knows? It's just a lot of stuff.
And a lot of his tweets got scrubbed also from Twitter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here was another tweet that he put up. He says, "I outed CIA agent Kent, Commissioner Roll, and Talis Bethel. I did this to prove I have data. It keeps me alive. See this? If I go, people in other countries have this data and will release it. One in England wants to be named. His reasons, you are brave." And then he @s somebody, and then that account doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of tweets. You'll see screenshots of tweets everywhere.
Yeah.
That he had info. He said it in the Adult Swim interview that he had info.
Mm-hmm.
He invented McAfee. I think he wasn't a part of McAfee though for like 20 years or something. Like, he gave up ownership or something.
He gave up ownership?
Yeah, so I'm not sure about that, but.
Well, he's also a philosopher.
Mm-hmm.
We have a great interview with Steve Poikonen, Slow News Day. We'll be seeing him soon with doing all the Julian Assange work that you know him from Action for Assange. I clipped up this little one part right over here to just give you a taste of who this gentleman is. I put a little music in there. Let's take a look. We'll quick look, and please go and watch the whole interview. It's awesome. He also talks about a story about how he was on the run in the Bahamas, how he went to Cuba. They were pretty much thumbing giving their middle finger to America, posting pictures on social media, and then he arrives in Cuba. And he's hanging out in Cuba for a while, and a general comes and is like, Mr. McAfee, you're going to have to leave. We could take you into custody, but we're not going to do that. But you have to leave in 72 hours because your presence here that you've made aware to people is causing problems for us, for the United States.
Christ.
So we had to take off and go to the Dominican Republic. And it's an interesting story. Please go watch the interview. It's amazing that Steve got this interview in the first place. Here's a little clip of John McAfee. This is just great.
Can humanity solve humanity's problems, or are we doomed to be ruled by AI overlords?
Dude, I thought you were a nice man. I mean, you threw me a curve here, okay? What are humanity's problems? We have a society that gives a pretense of politeness, order, relative violence, and a structured means of communicating and interacting with one another. It's called culture. But culture is the thinnest of all veneers. Let's look at what's under culture, the human creature. Yes, we love, we have compassion, we hope, we dream, we're caring, we're helpful. I mean, there is not a single human, I truly believe this, on the planet that if you were walking on a path by the river and a child was drowning, you would not jump in and save the child, provided you could swim. If you couldn't, you'd be screaming for help. I truly believe that. However, that same creature is full of anger, greed, jealousy, fear, everything negative. And the reason that when our leaders become powerful, they also universally become corrupt is because those beautiful aspects of the human animal, hopes, dreams, love, they don't need power, do they? What power does love need to activate? Nothing. You reach out to another human being and your heart fucking opens. The good parts don't need power. And without power, we're pretty much in balance. What does need power? Hatred, anger, revenge. These things, they need power. And when you give the human animal power, does love expand? No, love stays the same. What expands? Greed, jealousy, anger, all of the things that we are trying to push down through culture. And that thin veneer of culture cracks and disintegrates, and the powerful, ugly person emerges.
Wow.
Yep. Right? Yep. That was like a year ago. Mm-hmm. That was before he was picked up. Ah, great job, Steve. I mean, like, you know, and Steve asked these great questions. Like, I mean, you know, that's why he says, "You son of a bitch. I thought you were a nice man." And he asked a couple questions like that. He's like, "Oh, God, I really hate you people. The truth seekers," is what he called Steve. Like, I hate, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, "You wanted me to talk about this?" There's a question about Bill Gates in there. It's just... Guys, go watch the video.
It's on Rokfin, and they pinned it, by the way. If you go to Slow News Day, they pinned it. It's amazing. It's amazing. Or you can go to the tweet, like the tweet, and click on the link and go right there, too, as well. Kill two birds with one stone. The last video I have, Johnny, we don't have to play the whole thing, but it was kind of interesting. She was on, John was on Sophie Co. Mm-hmm. And this really video just gives you, a little taste of what John was all about, how anti-imperialist he was, how he hated the government. He thought they were just... fascist in all ways. Let's just play a little of it, Johnny. Yeah. Let's just play a little of it and cut it whenever you're ready, and we'll just finish up this section right here. A little bit more.
Please, governments become corrupt always. Power inevitably corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. Please, this is the truth of life since the beginning of the human race. And so our government, can you say our government is not powerful? If it is powerful, there is corruption somewhere in it. A suspected person is not a guilty person. Until you are proven guilty, you have all the rights that everybody else has. This is America. We have a constitution. I am sorry. And I am not a terrorist, and neither are you to my knowledge. And just because there are terrorists, should you give up your right to privacy? Absolutely not. Do you realize what madness that would bring, what chaos? Our society would come unglued. We can't do that.
I have no political stance. I believe that it does not matter eventually what party is in power. The political process goes on as it always will. Power corrupts. People in power tend to do what all people in power do. I don't have a political stance. I do have a stance as an individual and as a member of society. I do not want someone looking through my bedroom window, whether it's an impartial observer or not, whether they're going to prosecute me or not. I want some privacy to do the things that we as human beings need privacy for. And we're losing that. We're losing that to a great extent. I think people need to make their...
That's great, right? I don't want to play more. Like, just guys, go check it out. It's on Instagram, Sophie Co. I mean, but fam, your thoughts on John McAfee? I mean,
I think he's right. Philosophically, I agree with him. From that standpoint, that's what I was just telling Cultist Demon. I think, authoritarianism is essentially if you have a big form of centralized government, at some point it's going to be corrupted, no matter what ideology you espouse. So this is why I believe in decentralization, because it's just so much more difficult to corrupt something that is more in the hands of everybody rather than just one person or just one institution or one whatever. And so I philosophically, I 100% power corrupts. I mean, the more powerful you are, the more ambitious you are, the more you see it when people become wealthier, when people go into positions of power. What happens? They lose touch with what they once were. And this happens time and time again. You could talk about the Squad. You could talk about even Bernie. You could talk about any politician you have ever admired, or any philosopher or intellectual. Once they lose that activist on the ground working class identity, and they have more power because they're looked on as an authority figure, they change, or the stakes are not the same for them. So I think philosophically, I think he was on the right track, and I there's so much mystery to this guy, and I think some of these whistleblowers and anons, they do that because it's part of also protection too, like really not to keep some elements of yourself inside and be a little bit private, but simultaneously sharing as much as what that can potentially help the world. So
yeah. Cultist Demon says, and this, thank you very much for the super great contribution, says, sounds like McAfee was living the libertarian dream, a private capitalist warlord. This is what the libertarianism is. It's a sick ideology of the party bourgeois. That's the way I see it, at least. It's hard to argue that in some ways, and some ways it's not. I mean, because really, when it comes about freedom and privacy, when it comes to libertarianism, obviously, he's talking about the way power corrupts, but look at the power he had with his money and Belize. He was acting like a warlord down there of sorts.
Right. There's that element of human contradiction and human hypocrisy. I mean, if we're going to stay on the philosophy aspect of it, right, too.
Yeah.
That's why I always say Bitcoin is a means right now that could help people, but it's definitely not the end. And I'm still, suspect of anything that relies on capitalism for that reason, because capitalism still is easily corruptible ambition.
It's still capitalism. It was just meant to take the power away from the central banks and make it about free capitalism of sorts. You know what I'm saying? Which, once again, the free market, we always talk about that. There's a lot of positives, but I agree with you. At the end of the day, fam, and it's not the final solution. There are poor people out there living on the streets who don't even have access to a bank account, don't have access to a phone. There's a lot of people in the world who don't have all those things and stuff. So it's just like, hello, how are we gonna help the most vulnerable out there is the question, because every day it still burns my ass when I walk outside my house and I walk around this town and I see homeless people walking around the streets, and I look them in the face and I look them in the eyes and I see the suffering they're going through, and it pisses me the fuck off. The richest nation in the world, and we have almost 750,000 homeless people by the time this whole, whatever you want to call this, theatrics of the fucking COVID are over. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's going to be a money switch. They're going to kick more money upstairs, and less people are going to own, and more individuals are going to own more. And that includes housing. Yep. Johnny was talking about the other day what we saw. They don't want you to own. They want you to pay rent so you don't own any assets whatsoever. And that's what they're attempting to do, so it does burn my ass. Joni Bug, you are amazing. Look what Joni Bug did here, fam. This is awesome. You guys have the best live show. Love you guys. We love you, Joni Bug. And Mocracy said...
Hey.
Thank you so much, Mocracy, for the super rare contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch.
I haven't seen you, Mocracy.
Mocracy is back on the Haas. No gods, no masters. Y'all should check out the vid of Adam Kokesh performing the Libertarian Socialist Caucus of the Libertarian Party at the 2018 Libertarian National Convention. There's a nice smear piece on YouTube entitled Kokesh Unites Libertarians with Commies. Fun stuff. We should check it out. Drop the link in the thread and we will check it out.
The ultimate libertarian is an anarchist, and the ultimate socialist is a communist. Just so you guys know, that's where it interacts. And I mean, if you're looking at
and if we can find a way to take a little piece of everything in modern times, I don't know. I mean, I don't have the answers.
I don't think anybody has the answers, right? I don't think any one ism is going to solve our issue. However, I do fall towards thinking that something that, the reason I have always liked communism is because it's about community, the workers, and all of that. Like, that's why.
It's about pro-labor.
But again, I don't believe it has really fully been successful, because I think also humanity's not evolved. To me, the idea of that is a utopia, and I don't think humanity is there because, again, power corrupts. So
power corrupts. John, you got anything else to say on McAfee before we get off the subject? All right, John, can we just grab the one clip of J6 again, just so when we edit this, we can have it clipped up here, because we can clip it up in one section, and I'll tell Joe to forget about the beginning, and we'll just cut it up properly.
We just don't clip it up.
Well, we can just do it this way, just so we have it real quick. So we'll go to In the News and then finish that up real quick, and then we'll jump over to FAM's section about what's going on in Peru. All right. Thank you very much for all you guys who joined in. Sorry that we had issues with the Rokfin earlier. We have it on now. Thank you to everybody who left these lovely tips for us to go do our thing. And we will continue to do our thing to get our butts out there in the streets, on the ground, and break it. So let's start real quick. Fam, once again, I'm going to try to reenact what we said before. Never forget J6, fam.
Yeah, I mean, again, like we mentioned earlier, right? It looks like they're at a museum. They were let in. They were walked in, actually, and it's just a joke. It's a shit show. It's a joke. People, they're enacting legislation based on this, calling it an insurrection, an attempted coup, an attempted takeover. No, none of that happened. We were there. Steve was there. A lot of people that we know were there. Jason Burmis was there. All of us were speaking against this from the beginning, because we were there, and we knew that this would be used and weaponized to just have a massive crackdown of fascistic legislation, and that's what's happening now. Do I agree with their ideology? No, but I think anybody in this country is going to think our elections are fraudulent, because we don't have fair elections, guys. We don't. And you know what? Whoever said that is right. Or Kokesh, he said that we're not there with we can't talk about election integrity if we have a fascistic system. It's the same thing with Medicare for all. We can talk about it. We can say we want this and that. But guys, we're right now, there's the government is attacking you. It's attacking the people, and we're all busy fighting each other right now. And we have to really realize that that's not going to get us anywhere. We can't get Medicare for all or ranked choice voting in the gulag. We got to avoid the gulag first, come together, and then we can argue about whose ideology is better, whose this is that. But we need to have that ability, and we've been saying this ad nauseum, but this is why we say it. This is precisely why, because they're weaponizing it to come after you and I.
And just to think about what they used from January 6th, which was bullshit, what they did from Russiagate, which was bullshit. They enacted bullshit, authoritarian, anti-civil liberty policies on these two events. Literally. That one, they're still trying to push that it was one of the deadliest events since 9/11. I mean, they literally said this with a straight face. People in Congress, people cried. AOC, I scared for my life. You were scared for your life from this? From this? And I'm not saying there wasn't bad things that happened there. Obviously, we talked about Ashley Babbitt and whatnot and stuff like that. And then, the president, the G7 was trying to say that Officer Sidnick was killed from the situation. But I mean, to say that this is on par, on level with 9/11, I mean, you have to be fucking demented.
It is an insult to the victims of 9/11, the soldiers, the Iraqis, the dead, everybody in the Middle East that died as a result of our interventionist wars. To say that it's an insult, it's a disgusting insult.
Speaking of elections, real quick too, as well, a lot of people were confused because they had this article that came out and said the judge threw out most of the case alleging counterfeit ballots in Fulton. It's not true at all. It's a bullshit statement. I just got off the phone right before we went live with voter GA, with Garland Favorito himself, and he says no. The only thing they're changing is who's allowed to be sued. At first, and here we are, let's put it up while we got it up. I'll go grab it real quick, and then I'll explain the situation in which Garland explained to me. We are getting the ballots. Now we need your help. On May 21st, we received approval. This is just, last month, inspection of Fulton County, mail-in ballots that have been in question since November 4th and 15th, and the hand count audit of November 3rd of the presidential elections. But now high-powered Fulton County lawyers retained a Fulton County taxpayer expense will make the last-ditch Hail Mary effort to stop us and to oppose election integrity. So pretty much what they're trying to do, fams, is that they went for a motion to dismiss. The motion was denied. At first, they were they were suing the Board of Elections in Fulton County. Mm-hmm. They switched that to the state. That's why the Secretary of State had his lawyers there in the case. Now what the judge did is saying we're switching it back to going after you're allowed to sue the Fulton County Board of Elections. People went that. So that's what they switched. It gives them an extra 30 days before they can get a hold of the ballots. The work program isn't worked out yet. But Garland assured me that they're going to get a hold of these ballots. They're going to be able to go to the warehouse. It's very different than what's going on in Arizona. I kind of point this out. Voter GA is a nonprofit organization, all volunteers. They're not allowed to get possession of the stuff. Only the state is allowed to do that. But the state, Georgia State, the legislation had sent a whole delegation to Arizona to see what's going on over there. So if Garland Favorito does produce some information, that it's possible for the state then to come in and say, all right, now we want a full-fledged audit what's going over. Now, I want to point out, personally, I don't know, really, I haven't talked to a lot of the state legislations in Georgia. I know in Arizona, the people we spoke to our boy Mark Fincham, we spoke to Sonny Borelli, we heard Karen Pham say all this stuff. This is Arizona. This is not about going back and removing Joe Biden for Donald Trump. I get them confused because it's the same shit sometimes. But it's not about that. It's about finding the areas that were proved to be fraudulent or areas of concern and fixing the elections moving forward. That's why it's sad, fam, when we talk about these bills. And these bills don't even go far enough. They don't even hit on a lot of the things like the proprietary software. But they're trying to make sure there's some more transparency involved when it comes to the counting process, when it comes to the audit process, and when it comes to identification on absentee ballots. Absentee ballots, ladies and gentlemen. Not when you go in to vote. Absentee ballots. They want to make sure that you have some form of identification.
I mean, this morning, KPCC was running a whole thing about just the new Jim Crow and how Georgia is stealing. And look, we're like an adversarial opposition to what some of these progressive supposed election integrity activists are talking about, because they're focused only on voter suppression. Nobody is saying that doesn't happen. Voter suppression does happen. The gerrymandering, that does happen. We should fix that. We should also fix this. And you have to fix it all. Yeah. And that's the frustration, is when I do see people on the right focus on immigrants or focus on it just takes away or on Trump, right? You focus on the legislation. And when I see people on the left weaponizing people of color, basically, to
tokenizing.
Push, absolutely, to push this HR1 and all this legislation that is supposed to bring democracy. Guys, it doesn't do anything. It actually hurts third parties. It hurts any sort of attempt to ranked choice voting, any sort of attempt for anything. So they weaponize people with this propaganda and with this narrative management. And it's so hard. It's so hard to talk to the left about elections, because they're like, well, why are you pushing Republican legislation? I'm like,
tribal.
Don't look at it being Republican or not. unfortunately, I wish progressives were pushing election integrity votes.
Yeah.
They're not.
They stopped.
And sorry, they're not. And there's a few of them that are doing the work and trying to get audits. But it's very few. And so that's what we're saying. I would never push legislation that would disenfranchise people of color. Hello.
Yeah.
Like or the working class. And it's especially after studying elections in Peru and after looking and doing the research as how elections are done all over this world. We are one of the countries that has the worst, if not the worst, elections. And it's not because of technology. I mean, it is because of technology. It's because we don't have security in this technology. We don't have transparency. It's not because we don't have the money to do it or the means to do it. It's because it is by design this way.
Corporately owned elections. And I just want to say that the fact that people on the left, they go, well, they're making it less accessible and that's going to hurt people of color. Well, the most accessible elections are no securities whatsoever. So at what point do you say we have to have some securities to make sure that it's fair?
It must be
because it's going to come back and hurt you. And also the people who are pushing for the whole idea that what the Republicans are doing is suppressing the vote are the people who suppressed the primaries that we caught red-handed on. I mean, how do you say to the people who are the ones who said that they have the right to cheat in a courtroom are the ones who are allowed to stand up and say the other side is cheating? Shouldn't they have to always show their homework? I mean, shouldn't we always have audits? And don't accept this fact that people say, oh, we have audits all the time. No, we don't. We understand what these audits are. They're a logic and accuracy test. They're sample size audits. They're not real audits. We should have audits all the time. Showing your homework from both sides and all elections, primaries and all elections. Plain and simple. So don't get duped by what's going on right now. We're fighting for transparency and the fact that corporations own our election system and we have to just go, oh, trust us.
Yeah.
There's no chain of custody on the way they print ballots. And like what we showed in Georgia, I mean, that should be one of the most biggest mind-blowing thing. We had a lady who worked as tech support with Dominion weeks before the election, and they're printing off ballots that could be used and counted, almost on the same type of paper. I mean, they're a little off, but once again, there's no chain of custody of that. When a ballot is printed, there needs to be a chain of custody. What happens to that ballot and how it's shredded the whole fucking time. And Benny Smith came on the show and said that there should be a chain of custody of all the time with these ballots. And that's why people have to pay attention to the contract and what companies are making the ballots and how they treat them and what they do and what ability they have in their contract. You know, we looked at that K&H contract, Johnny. I remember it was like they have the ability to store it, print it, keep it, mail it out, the whole 9 yards. That's cause for concern. So, okay, anything else on that? All right, so the last part of In the News, too, Reverend William Barber, Dr. William Barber and Jesse Jackson were arrested protesting the filibuster and Joe Manchin. It took this to win it. It's going to take this to keep it.
Yeah,
I
so
don't know
that's
if
what
they're
I'm
protesting
saying.
the right thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's,
no, they're that's what I'm saying. They're saying like this is what is it like they're equating it to back in the day when they used to vote, when they used to the civil rights movement, when they were fighting for the right to vote. And this is what irritates me because again, it's not genuine what is being done here. They're once again trying to get tokenized Black people specifically, but also, you know, minorities to say that, you know, only the right is their enemy. Only the right is disenfranchising them when both parties disenfranchise them in different ways. And so I just get so grossed out because it's like so hard to say anything against this because people just go with their emotions and they're like, yeah, why wouldn't I support people of color getting accessibility to vote? Of course. But that's not it, guys. That's not the whole story. They just weaponize your emotions and don't do anything. And
this is really sad that Jesse and William Barber, who I try to get on the show, we lost contact with them.
Well, you know, Reverend Annie Chambers has said, why the Poor People's Campaign doesn't have poor people in it.
Yeah.
So
how are you going to have poor people when you don't know about poor?
Yeah.
You know, and when I said Jesse ain't worth a damn, she was talking about it.
Yeah.
And it really is sad to see them just go after the Republican Party and continue this dialogue of left versus right in the United States when it's what Bernie said a long time ago. It's one big aisle, fam. It's one big aisle. All right, let me go down a little bit real quick. Johnny, got anything to say on this stuff before we get to the next subject? All right, let me just read some Super Rays really quickly. I got all those. All right. Hurry up back because I got to go too. Y'all should check. Sorry. Jesus
Christ.
We are convinced that liberty without socialism is privilege and injustice, and that socialism without liberty is slavery and brutality. Russian anarchist Mikhail Bakunin, Libertarian Socialist Caucus at the 2018 LNC with Adam Kokesh. He has it up right here, ladies and gentlemen. So take a look. If you're in the Rokfin, go over to that. I'm going to clip it right now, and we'll look at it later. Yeah, thank you so much, No Gods, No Masters. I appreciate it. Joshua Darby, there is a big rift in the Libertarian Party. The Mises Caucus needs to take over. Dave Smith is a great source of message and direction. I've been hearing Dave Smith's name left and right. You know, I'd like to talk to Dave Smith, so maybe we should get a hold of Dave Smith and see what's going on. Joshua Darby is a white supremacist. The Mises Caucus of the Libertarian Party is a white supremacist organization. Don't take my word for it. Look it up and decide for yourself. Well, I have a hard time believing that, No Gods, No Masters, that they're white supremacist. I've heard a lot of positive things about the Mises Caucus, but I will look into it. Any information you want to send to us that can prove your point, please do so.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna promote any party at this point.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should on the show either.
No, not at all.
Any sort of party, whether it's a libertarian or whether it's green or whatever. I don't care what party it is. It's just like, sure, we'll talk to people, right? We'll talk to anybody. But as far as like saying that we're affiliated with any party, no, we're not affiliated with any party.
Yeah, but you know, we hear a lot of people, just anybody on the left says that anybody who votes for Donald Trump is a racist and that kind of thing. We've heard that kind of language from Katie Hobbs. So, you know, I'll look into it about the Mises Caucus too. I want to see what's going on. I want to understand more about the whole caucuses within the Libertarian Party. So I will take a look into that and see what's up. Aram, thank you so much for the Super Ray contribution. It's always appreciated on the couch. Hey, Pasta, I understand that you like that Niko House shirt.
It is a Niko House
It's what I call it. I call it my Niko House shirt. But to cite an Arsenio Hall line, I think because of that shirt, someone in Encino is missing some couch covers.
Wow.
But it looks good on you. I do see that shirt as being in the good fight in documenting and pursuing the true imperatives that reflect wise strategy of principle, objectivity, and fairness in elections. So this is my Fight for Elections shirt is what you're trying to say. Well, thank you so much, very much, everybody. Get over to the Rokfin right now, ROKFIN. We had little problems getting started. We are now here in full-fledged. I want to thank everybody who left all these Super Ray contributions. You guys are amazing. There's 248 people on YouTube. Hit the like button up. We only have 2 trolls over there. And if you do have a chance, get over to that Rokfin, and we will do so.
Okay. So we're going to go into Peru in a second. And just to give a little bit of, context, I don't know why. Still, I see the media, the left media, even independent media or socialist media, say Pedro Castillo is officially the one, because he's not. I want, myself personally, yes, I would like to see him win. And yes, I believe he has won effectively, of course, by the vote counts, right? However, until this whole thing is resolved, you cannot call a victory, because it actually puts us in a situation where people think everything's good and then it's not. And when you're not paying attention, shit happens. So what has happened recently is the OAS or the OEA, same thing. It has began observing, right? Begun observing and following the electoral process, the Peruvian electoral process. And this is as of June 24th, 2021, the MOE of the OAS in Peru. And it's headed by ex-chancellor of Paraguay, Rubén Ramírez Lezcano, are following the developments of this past electoral process. So that's what they're doing right now. And, they basically are looking at what the JNE is doing, what the JEE is doing, and what the OMPE is doing, right? So they're now observing this, and they're basically saying, we're observing this, and we're going to make sure that nothing bad happens. We're going to make sure that everything is good. So this woman went on Twitter, and her name is Kate Harrison. Okay. And she posted it in Spanish, but I'll hit the translate and I'll double make sure that it's accurate.
There it is.
She said, I am closely following the electoral process and take note of the latest OAS statement that indicates that up to now, the actions of the electoral authorities have followed the law. It is important that the process concludes transparently and without delay. So it's interesting. The OAS is saying up until this moment, they have followed the law. So thus far, the OAS is saying this. So that's what the OAS is saying. But just so you guys know, the OAS is monitoring. Now, we're going to look at what the Canadian observers have said. So here it is.
This is JNE Peru again, right?
Yes, this is JNE Peru. The government of Canada recognizes that the electoral process is held on June 6th was free, fair, and open. Therefore, it also confirms its support for the electoral bodies for the work carried out to date. So this is another outside observer saying we support what's happening, blah, blah, blah. And again, this is the OEA official. So that's the OAS. So this is an interesting development because the OAS is even like not, like validating this. So it's kind of like, what's going on here? And so then the JNE Peru once again said, the Transparency Civil Association also coincides with the evaluation of the OAS observation mission on the performance of the special electoral juries and the national elections jury in accordance with current regulations and guarantee of due process. So
what's the problem then?
The problem
Why don't they crown
is, I'll tell you, the problem is because Keiko Fujimori is still pushing it, and she was allowed to push this in spite of everything because she has people in the JNE who were favoring her. We told you this from the start. She had people in there that were favoring her. So what the latest development is, guys, Peru Election Board suspends member over conflict of interest. Hey. So this guy right here, the JNE resolved to suspend the incumbent member of the plenary of the electoral body, Luis Carlos Arce Cordoba. This guy, from the start, we told you, he was pro-Keiko. And he's also in trouble for the Cuellos Blancos situation, which basically was just a bunch of money laundering, dirty dealings that they did. Now, through a communique, the JNE expressed its rejection of the offensive expressions made by Arce in his letter on June 23rd, since according to the JNE, they attacked the honor and good reputation of the members of the JNE plenary and the electoral system, high authorities and servants of the country. So this guy Arce on June 23rd requested his irrevocable declination as representative of the public prosecutor office before the plenary of JNE under the basis of avoiding his minority votes being used to validate false constitutional deliberations that are reality decisions with clear political bias. In other words, he basically refused to participate because he felt like he was the only one that was supporting looking at the actas, looking at the tallies. He was the only one that wanted to really go through with it. So he was like, well, I'm just washing my hands out of this.
Accusing himself of
and
sorts, yeah.
So when that happened, first of all, he can't quit. So his position, like he can't just say in the middle of this entire process, it's normally illegal for somebody to do that. So it's really interesting that what happened was on June 15th, the Association of the Democratic Lawyers of Peru presented a recusal before the JNE against Luis Arce Cordoba based on an alleged conflict of interest, lack of transparency, and bias in favor of Fuerza Popular. There were reports that he met up with Keiko Fujimori, a political party, of course, led by Keiko Fujimori, blah, blah, blah. So there's this tweet here, and you can see the tweet from JNE Peru, and I will go ahead and read that one for you guys so you know. Some of this stuff is kind of wonky, so it's really good to like go through it. So they had this resolution. The president of the JNE resolved to suspend Mr. Luis Carlos Arce Cordoba from the exercise of the position of full member of the plenary to give rise to the convocation of the provisionally corresponding representative. And there's the letter, and that's what happened. So I'm just going to read the next one, Johnny, as well. In the resolution, the board of the Supreme Prosecutors of the Public Ministry is informed so that with extreme urgency, it provisionally summons its representative before the plenary of JNE. So basically, he's gone. They're going to replace him, guys. They're going to replace him.
Because he had a biased stance, right?
He had a biased stance.
He's caught meeting with the popular party, the Popular.
Fuerza Popular, exactly.
Yeah,
and he's also one of the, like I mentioned, one of the los Cuellos Blancos del Puerto, which was a criminal organization led by the former Supreme Court Justice of Peru, Cesar Inostroza, who helped Fujimori with her judicial process. So he is conflict of interest all around.
Yeah.
So that's it. And they said that there is sufficient evidence that would lead us to suspect that the judge Luis Carlos Arce Cordova would not be impartial in the administration of administrative justice. So basically, he's gone, and like I said, they're going to replace him, and who they chose to replace him, by the way, is also corrupt. But that's another matter. So right now, this is what's happening, right? He was also shit talking, right? He was shit talking the JNE. So basically what's happening is they're trying to say that the JNE is not a decent enough organization to look over the election. So that's what Keiko Fujimori is now alleging, that the JNE is not an organization that should be leading. So this is a couple of things that I'll just translate for you. He was caught in a phone call with one of his friends, just, talking about deals and briberies and stuff. And they basically, he's the one that allowed Keiko Fujimori to solicit the nullification of the tallies, the electoral tallies that they had. And it favored, of course, Keiko Fujimori, and she's trying to overturn 200,000 votes, okay? And he was a representative of the JNE. He's also being investigated with money laundering and as well. So there was an audio that happened. So I was just showing you what the overall gist is. The next one is he is trying to delay the process because he declined declining the participation in this is now delaying the process, because now they had to replace him and start this whole thing again, and it undermines the organization because the organization is looks like what's going on here. This has never happened in Peru, right? And this is an illegal declination, like I said, because you can't do this in the middle of
the next one
of what's happening, right? You can't do this in the middle of when you're having this whole process. Mm-hmm. And what does this mean? I'm just gonna break it down. If you can show Johnny actually on the document, what does this mean? Because I want people to know, Keiko is basically trying to do everything in her power to delay the process as much as possible. What she wants to do is create a constitutional crisis, because if a president is not named by July 28th, then the country would be vulnerable to a constitutional crisis. And then they can say, well, we don't have a president, we need new elections. That is her number one intent. That is what they're trying to do. Because what day is it? It's almost July, right?
Yep.
And if this continues, it should have been 5 to 15 days. But the way this is going on and about, it looks like they're doing everything they can to stop this. And now Keiko's people are also in the streets saying that the elections aren't valid, right? And so the second thing that could potentially happen, this is more likely to happen, is if they continue delaying the process and place doubt on Pedro Castillo, it could hinder a peaceful takeover of the Castillo government, even if he is named the president and he starts taking over, which allows for the potential for a coup later, manufacturing consent that Castillo is corrupt, that Peru didn't have fair elections, manufacture a fake uprising of sorts to then potentially come in and either push re-election or push a coup out. So either way, they're not letting the power go. And the mainstream media in Peru, what they've been doing is actually saying, now, wait a minute. We need to make sure that our elections are good and are fair. Now, we can't just say that Castillo has won and all this stuff. It's called un golpe lento, a slow coup. So what they're trying to do...
Say it again.
Un golpe lento.
I want to learn how to say that.
Golpe lento, basically, it's not a normal coup. It's very obvious. You go in, you take power, and blah, blah, blah. Un golpe lento is when you do things to delay the electoral process, which then puts the country in a vulnerable position, which you can then come in and take over. And that's what's happening. And nobody's talking about this. Like, literally. And I'm just like, here, oh, my God. Like, this is like, people think, oh, it's a done deal. No, you guys. There's a reason why Evo Morales warned Pedro Castillo. There's a reason why there's marches right now in D.C. Franco's march tomorrow for, stop the coup, because people, we know, some of us know, we've seen this playbook time and time again. We know what happens. And believe it or not, the OAS might be just waiting on the sidelines, because this is it would be a very difficult, like I said, paper ballots is very hard. The signature verification, all of that has been thrown out. They verified it's the same signature of the people. They did that. It's done. So she doesn't really have anything other than to delay the process until the country enters a constitutional crisis.
Yeah. It seems like she's playing chess and putting all of her her pieces in position to go and attack. And that's what this seems like, that she's stalling, delaying, and the international community or the elites or the imperialists will back her and stuff, and eventually something might happen. And I think this is information and news you won't get anywhere, fam. This is great stuff that you brought to the table here, because you refuse to say, okay, where a lot of people like Castillo won and it's over and stuff. Like, no, it's not over. And we see what's going on. They're pulling out every trick in the book over here. So to be continued, and we have to pay close attention to this, because I can see if the OAS is on the sideline right now and they get involved. We saw what happened in Bolivia. We see what happens everywhere. Just recently, El Salvador walked out of a dual function together with the OAS because Biden put somebody in, his adversary, in place. So he's already said, condemned, and said, I'm done with the OAS. I'm finished with this group. We know what the OAS can do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The Bolivia coup is just a clear example. And they had no grounds on that particular situation. You know what I'm saying? They lied, cheated, and stealed. And they, they ingested death throughout the country. People died in that situation. And I'm just scared for what's going to happen in Peru right now.
Yep.
So
yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, let's get some super rays.
Yeah, let's see if we got
any. If we got any, if not,
nope,
all right.
We don't have any.
Great.
So what do we got for the last part of the show?
So, Jonny, I put the link to the live feed. I don't know if anything has been said, but as of this morning, 22 years. Okay. Derek Chauvin sentenced to 22.5 years in the death of George Floyd. Breaking news. Just wanted to follow along. They had the trial. We had his mother speaking, saying that the media framed him in a bad way. Then you had George Floyd's daughter also testifying. Also, he was denied a new trial as well earlier this morning. So that is it. That's 22.5 years. Some people are going to say that's not enough. We knew he wasn't going to get the full 40. It was going to be tough for him to get the 30. 12 would have been too little. There's going to be an appeal,
I'm sure.
There's going to be an appeal if he's allowed to, just we'll see what happens, guys. People like Maxine Waters, though he did, but he can still do it. Now that he's been sentenced, you have to kind of wait till the sentencing happens to do another course of action. Yeah.
Take it to another judge, take it to another court.
Right. So that's what happened, guys. I just wanted to mention that. And we've been following this for a while now, for over a year since it happened. We covered the protests. We've seen all of the things that have happened since George Floyd, and it did something, right? It made people aware that this is a thing. However, again, what now? What has actually changed in the government? Are they defunding the police? No. Joe Biden has actually given more money to the police. Yeah. And he can go ahead and name something Juneteenth, name a holiday Juneteenth. He can go ahead and name and pass this anti-Asian hate legislation. But does that actually do anything to change things? No, because America is the most propagandized nation, so they buy into this symbolic gesture. But we will never get a defunding the police movement until we attack the Pentagon. And that's the bottom line. And this is what I need people to see here. The connections, the national security state is the police of everybody else. Yeah. And the military industrial complex as well. And they train your police officers. You live in this culture, this death cult, and that's what it is. And I'm not against I'm not against defunding the police in terms of like what that means, because I know what it means, but so many people don't know what that means. You have to explain it and all of these things. But what I'm saying is, if you want the whole thing to change, it's not going to change. They're never going to give that to you.
We talked about the messaging, how it's a little bit off and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And even if you say, well, we don't want to defund the police, we better demilitarize the police.
Right.
We better hold people accountable. They shouldn't be able to, inspect themselves. Like, there's so many things that we have to change within the police department. If you're against defunding, if that's what you want to say, because you know what we mean by defunding, right? We don't want money to be spent militarizing our police, where they can walk around like they're looking like, they're fighting in Afghanistan and Fallujah, and they're using those weapons of war against their citizens. You know what I'm saying? And also we talk about, how many reforms of the police we can have. Well, there's no reform whatsoever. In fact, they've amped it up even more. And now they've just added a bunch of other people to the list of the people they can criminalize and torture and terrorize.
And now you can't even protest.
Vegans can't even protest right now and whatnot. So we need to, if there's one thing we do have to defund, it's the Pentagon,
it's the
right,
Pentagon.
Johnny?
Yep. And guys, thank you for your orders. And Johnny, did we want to I wanted to ask you, did we explain what we were doing with the shirts and stuff? Do you want to do that? Yeah. So the printing of the shirts was done in the United States. But the shirts themselves, I mean, we tried, and we will still try, like we're still going to continue looking, but it's just ridiculously expensive. So what we did is, like, everything that we have is printed in the United States. With what particular, I don't know the company, you might know better than I, but I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Johnny, show the anti-imperialist shirt real quick. I think that's the one that's really, Johnny just came up with this one really quick. Right there. Who doesn't want that shirt? Johnny Designs. Anti-imperialist.
I love it. You don't see that in shirts. You see, awesome. You see Kale or BLM or something, but you don't see anti-imperialist. I think that needs to be more of a thing, more of a thing. And the FAMs and so the Putin one is the best. And
what is that red one, Johnny?
That's the FAM.
No. The other that you had on the other page, it looked like a different one I didn't see yet.
Oh.
So, to the right there. What is that? Abolish the CIA. Look at this.
Wow.
There you are. That's all right. But people didn't know about it. You got to show it. That's why. That's a pretty cool one. I like that one. I might get that one. Abolish the CIA.
That color would look great on you, fam.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. Thank you so much for having patience while we had the whole Rokfin situation worked out. But we were on there, and there was over 60 people who joined today, and a lot of people who gave us a lot of love, including Joni Bug and everybody else. Thank you so much.
We love you guys.
We do love you. So please, if you have time, go over to Rokfin, sign up for free, and start an account over there and help us grow, where they don't suppress our voice and let YouTube know that they're full of it for not monetizing us and doing what they're doing. True fascists over there, fam. So, anything else?
Nope.
Johnny, anything else? Little Rebel.
Oh, Little Rebel. No, do we have some?
I missed one from AREM. Right, my bad. AREM, where you at?
AREM.
Let me get that last one, AREM. All right, so, Eric Ball, thank you so much for the Super Ray contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. Did that for you, fam. Nice. I apologize, Pasta, for commenting on your attire. No, I love it. You wear whatever you like. I love it, AREM. Please, comment all the time. It's very newsy. I'm sorry. That won't happen again. That was inappropriate. No, it wasn't. You don't have to worry about that happening again. It wasn't inappropriate, AREM. Please. I want to be commenting. I won't be commenting on your clothes. Moving on. Hey, how about them Islanders? Thank you so much, AREM. AREM, you can bust my chops any day you want when it comes to my clothes. I love it. I really do, and I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are paying attention to what I wear. So it's okay. And yes, today the Islanders played, fam. Barzy is taking the ice.
All right.
Matthew Barzell.
Cut the stream.
And Anthony Beauvillier. I think I'm going to watch the game in French tonight. Watch the French thing. Well, last time I watched it in French, they lost to the to the Tampa Bay Lightning last year, so I'm not going to do that.
Go
but that's
Tampa Bay Lightning! Woo!
Congratulations to the Montreal Canadiens, the Habs. They beat the Las Vegas Knights yesterday to go on to the Stanley Cup, Lord Stanley himself, the finals. And tonight we'll make it's Game 7, the last game, and we'll see who plays who in the Stanley Cup Finals. So that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you go sign up for that Rokfin. Thank you to all our Patreons out there. You guys are amazing. For Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella,
Johnny Sue spinning on the ones and twos.
Convo out.
Go to our shop. Get yourself an anti-imperialist shirt.